Codelco is the world's largest copper producer. I'm here today with Óscar Landerretche, chairman of Codelco, a state-owned company. Óscar, thanks very much for joining me. As we know, copper prices are still trading close to their lowest levels in 6 years, but Codelco actually increased production last year. Do you not think now is the time for production cuts?
I think production will be cut and supply must cut itself, but fortunately for us, we're on the high end of the market. We have very good quality mines, and with the efforts we have been making in cost cutting and making the company more efficient and lean, we are definitely the part of the production that is going to remain after the adjustment.
And how are you making these cost cuts? Where are you seeing the cuts happen?
I think that, well, first of all, there's a big opportunity given the enormous cost inflation that we had in Chile. Chile is a small country that went through the commodities boom and felt it extremely. So there's a lot of opportunities there. It's a slow and difficult process because the people in the society and the economy gets accustomed to these costs. So it's an ongoing process. And one of the big advantages we've had is because we're a state-owned company, and Chileans basically perceive that every Chilean thinks that he owns the company, he or she owns the company. We are able to get some very substantial commitments by actors, unions, different leaders to help us in the process of making the company more efficient, and it's actually paid off.
And Codelco does have a 20 billion spending program. How will you raise this money? I mean, you've hinted that you might look at offering shares in Codelco on an exchange. Could you just expand on that?
So we had a 25 billion program, and we've been cutting. We've been making it more efficient without actually stopping the investment projects. We're at 20 or so, and still the CEO has promised me another 2 billion for the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. Unfortunately for us, we cannot bring private capital into the part of the company that was nationalized in the 1970s. This is protected by the Chilean constitution. But what is true is that at some point Codelco is going to have to do some investments further than its core, right? And particularly outside of Chile and in other areas. And it's absolutely inevitable that we have to do that with private capital. There is no way around that. So if anybody who likes the company, who has a stake in the company, wants the company to grow, and has problems with that, they should, I think, find a way around those problems, because otherwise we're not going to be able to project the company in the future. And I think it's the role of the leadership of this company to give people the guarantees, if you want, or the reasons to believe that process isn't as dangerous as they believe.
And so you talk about internationally. I mean, you started a project in Ecuador. So in this project, could you look at raising money from investors and forming a joint venture?
That project is in its very early stages. We are exploring in Ecuador jointly with the national mining company of Ecuador. And it's very likely that if we end up investing there, it's going to have to be raising money in some way, yes. Because it's very unlikely that we shall be able to justify the use of Chilean public funds in an investment abroad. I don't think that's going to fly.
But within Chile, do you want the government to change the rules so that you can raise more funds?
So I think that the Chilean government first has to deal with the decapitalization of Codelco. During the last 30 years, the company has been allowed to retain less than 10% of its surplus. I mean, I did a quick calculation and managed to add up that if during the last 10 years, during the boom years, we had been capitalized in the same percentage as private companies, private miners operating in Chile, just during the 10 years of the boom, and just in the same percentages, not more, not less, we would have zero debt, okay? Which of course would have been nice. So I think that the first thing we have to do is solve that problem. The government has to live up to the fact that if you want revenue from a company, you have to invest in it at some point, right? And so it's not going to be immediate. I don't think it's reasonable. What I've proposed is that we establish a classical Chilean responsibility rule like we've had in other times, by which when the good times come, there's some mechanism by which some percentage is used to capitalize, and when it's tighter, we don't. I think something like that would be a very reasonable thing to do in Chile, and would I think, my belief is that capital markets and analysts and people who read the news on commodities would find that a responsible way of dealing with a problem that has grown over the years.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Óscar, for joining me today.
Thank you.